The lift arms quit halfway through a bucket. No bang, no smoke, no leak, just levers that stopped answering. The repair was a switch under the seat. The panel had been saying so for a week. That's the pattern on an S185. The parts that actually fail are cheap, and the bills come from waiting. So here's every known weak point, the symptom each one shows first, and what ignoring it turns into. Start with the one that fools everybody, the machine that runs fine but won't lift or drive. The operator's first thought is always the pumps. On this loader, it's almost never the pumps. Nothing moves until the machine is convinced you're actually sitting in it, belted, with the bar down. Seat bar down, seat switch made, handles in neutral. Miss one of those, and it plays dead. Code M1021 is the seat bar sensor reading out of range high. That's a sensor, not a hydraulic failure. The symptom order matters, dead at idle first, alive when you shift your weight, then dead permanently. That intermittent stage is the cheap window, and it's the one everybody works through instead of fixing. It's the fridge door you've closed with your hip for 2 years. You stop noticing. The machine didn't. Next, the loader starts, the engine's happy, and lift and tilt do absolutely nothing when you pull. The controller won't hand over the hydraulics until it sees the handles and pedals sitting in true neutral. W3240 means the lift handle or pedal isn't in neutral. That's the machine waiting on you. There's a matching code for tilt. A tired return spring or worn detent holds that fault all day. Cost of the real fix, a spring in an hour. Cost of guessing, a tear down you never needed. Now the same exact symptom with a real bill behind it, and from the seat they look identical. Lift and tilt run through actuators, the pieces that turn your handle movement into valve movement. W3236 is a lift actuator fault. That's not a neutral complaint. That's the device reporting itself failed. Shorts read differently. Short to ground and short to battery each get their own code on lift and on tilt. That matters because a short is usually a rubbed harness, and a fault is usually the actuator itself. One's a section of wire and some loom, the other's a part plus setup plus shop time. Before you order anything, do the boring thing. Check the grounds and the positive leads first. The factory manual says it outright. Corroded or loose grounds cause these symptoms. Check them before chasing parts. Same page, look for pins pushed back or bent-in connectors and loose spade connectors in the fuse holder. A pin backed halfway out of its connector throws a code that reads exactly like a dead component. That's the priciest mistake on this machine, buying the part the code named before testing the wire feeding it. If that just reframed the last fault you chased, that's exactly what this channel is for. Stick around, because now we reach the section that decides whether this machine costs you a filter or a pump. Everything hydrostatic on this loader lives or dies on one thing: charge pressure feeding the drive pumps. Charge pressure is the low side that keeps the closed loop full and the pump properly fed. Starve it and nothing fails loudly. The pump just wears quietly every hour you keep working it. The first warning is never dramatic. It's the charge filter telling you that it's plugged. Min Telvin 7 is hydraulic charge filter plugged. That's a filter and an afternoon. That's as cheap as this ever gets. Ignore it, and the next thing on the panel is charge pressure reading out of range, low. That's no longer a filter complaint. That's the pump not getting what it needs to survive. What you feel: sluggish travel, one track lazy in a turn. Power fading as the oil warms up. Warm fade is the tow. Find cold, tired 30 minutes in because clearances open up as the fluid thins. Keep working it and the controller stops asking politely. Charge pressure shutdown ends your shift for you. That's the whole arc. Plugged filter, low pressure, shutdown. One problem, 3 codes, 3 very different invoices. Heat runs the same escalation, and heat is the second killer on this machine. Hydraulic oil temperature high comes first, extremely high second, and shutdown is the third and final step. By the time you see the middle one, the oil has already stopped protecting the parts it touches. And overheating, here's usually airflow, not oil. The cooler packs with chaff on the side nobody looks at. Blow it out from the fan side. From the outside, you're just pressing that mat deeper into the fins. If the hydraulic fan circuit itself fails, it reports separately: shorts, open circuit, overcurrent, each with its own code. Now the cheapest weak point on the whole loader, and the one that steals the most power: the air filter. Code M1117 is air filter plugged, and the engine complains before the panel does. Down on pull under load, darker exhaust, and a machine that runs out of push halfway up the pile. Here's what people get wrong: there's an outer element and an inner one, on different schedules. The manual's rule is simple: replace the inner element every third time you replace the outer. Pull that inner one every service and you're just feeding dust past a seal you keep disturbing. Cold start trouble is next, and the panel separates the failure types instead of leaving you guessing. An open circuit on the goil plug output gets its own code, separate from output failure and relay error. That split is the whole diagnosis. A dead relay is a bench part, a dead output is a controller problem. No crank breaks down the same way, so the machine already told you which third of the circuit quit. Then there's the code that quietly explains a dozen others, the controller logging interrupted power. When power blinks, half the outputs report faults they never actually had. That's usually a loose battery terminal. There's also a no communication code for the workgroup, and a panel reporting it isn't talking to the controller. Chase those, and you'll almost always find a connector, not a controller. Cheap to fix, expensive to misread. One quirk of the display trips everybody, multiple codes scroll, and the newest one sits in position 1. When a new code lands, the oldest drops off the way your phone quietly eats the oldest notification, so the code you're staring at may not be the one that started this. Write them down before clearing. Now the argument everybody has at the coffee truck, the bucket that creeps down overnight. That's either cylinder seals or a valve leaking past, and the factory test tells them apart properly. Open the rear door and test one cylinder at a time. The manual is specific about that. It's specific about temperature, too. Bring the fluid to 140 Fahrenheit before trusting a reading. Cold oil hides a weak seal. That's how a machine passes in the morning and drifts by noon. The main relief on this system is 3,300 psi, and the manual says don't exceed it. That's not a suggestion. Turning a relief up to mask a weak circuit just moves the failure somewhere costlier. And this is high-pressure work. The manual is blunt that it belongs with trained Bobcat service personnel. Prevention here's boring, short, and front-loaded. What you do early decides almost everything that comes after. The hydraulic and hydrostatic filter comes out at 50 hours on a fresh machine, then when the panel asks, working dusty, hot, or heavy, oil and filter move to a 100-hour interval, not the normal one. And through the first day of service, the manual wants things checked every 8 to 10 hours. So here's the whole video in one line. On an S185, a code name's a symptom, not a part. Filter before pump, ground before controller, wire before actuator. Every expensive repair here started out cheap. The exact pressures, intervals, and the full code list are in the service manual linked below. Like this, if it saved you a guess. And subscribe for daily diagnostics. Next up, checking charge pressure with a gauge. Keep the panel honest, and this loader will outlast the people complaining about it. See you on the next one.